all that money that I ended up counting, but I think just a little bit of it paid my fees and yeah, took care of the house. But I would love to get into that business and get more of it. Well, today we have Edwin Musime, who is a real estate consultant. He has been for quite some time. He has some good knowledge about it, and today we want to get the details of it. Edwin, good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure being here.
Real estate business. It's a real estate, and very many people out there want to get into this business because I think it's not just word on the street. Everyone will tell you that real estate is one of the most profitable business that you can ever get into. Is that true?
Of course, there can't be a response that says true or false, because just like any other business, you lock yourself in, and it's either side of the coin. Really, you can never tell. What I could say is that several quotes would tell us that the only place usually you would never go wrong as far as investment is concerned would be real estate. And from a Christian perspective, I always say that when you look at how God's mind thinks, the very first matter He concerns Himself with in the beginning is real estate.
Yes,
real estate infrastructure. When you see the Garden of Eden and what the creation story is like, that's when I date back the birth of real estate for mankind. So it's away from even just investing it in as far as commercially is concerned. I would say that the greatest reward any man can give themselves or woman can give themselves is a home. Before we even talk about the broader spectrum of real estate, a home to live in. So I think for me it's a very important investment in life.
Okay. Is it a misconception when it comes to real estate that you need big bucks to get started if you are a person that is interested in taking it on as a business?
I always beg to, if you want to, of course, if you want to take it on as a business, it also depends on how big a stake of an investment portfolio you want to get into real estate. If you're talking about going into it big, obviously real estate is a high net worth line of business. But I've had colleagues and friends who actually went into real estate by starting small, developing just one property, selling it off, and have multiplied profit, and then just begun to replicate the same philosophy. So there can be two ways. You either have your money bags, or you have some great financial backing that you can start big, but also it's possible to actually start small and grow. So it's a two-way, really.
It's just like any other business. It depends where you have your financial muscle.
It's definitely just like any other business. But again, here, of course, we have different types of families in Uganda. There's those that have had a chance to inherit land, which I would think would be a bit easier when you talk about leveraging, other than probably someone who has to start out and go get out the land. But just like any other business, the return on investment is what different experts are now questioning. But when it comes to real estate, you usually, in the long term, you'd get it right as far as an investment is
you mentioned something to do with inheritance. And it's been a case in this country, and especially with places that have prime land. For some, it has been good because, you know, the people who have inherited, the older parents have decided not to sell. The people who have inherited have gotten rid of the land as fast as they inherited it. And then for some people, they have decided to hold on to the land, and it has slowed down the progress of real estate in certain areas. Which of the two do you think works better for the people that decide to hold on to their land and do nothing with it, and then there are those that decide, you know, I'm not going to do anything with this land, let me sell it off?
2-3 things here we'll look at. When I invested in Property Show Rwanda, where we heavily have been operating, you find that the nation or government has a hand to play in this. When you look at the physical planning and national development plan, you'd find that in Kigali you can't play that nonsense. No. If you have a piece of land, if it's in a CBD area or outside the CBD area, and there's a gazetted designated plan for that area, you cannot hold on to land and say, well, we're not sure.
I don't want to do this on my land.
There is a plan. If it's saying that in Muyenga, Kololo, Buziga, all those areas, nothing like slums, nothing like idle land and all that. They'll either ask you to find another piece of land, buy you out, you leave, or they will evict you, unfortunately. And when it comes to matters of development, I've come to learn that a little bit of despotic regulations at times are necessary. So again, back here in Uganda, of course, it's a right for anyone to do whatever they would want to do with their land. And interestingly, lately, I think most Ugandans are also understanding the growth of the value and appreciation of the value of land, to the extent that they know that if I have an acre of land today, better hold on to it. If I'm going to sell it next year, then the value would have gone higher. So that's something you can't do much about, really.
There's been a lot of talk about, you know, and it happens quite understandably when people look at the growth that is happening in Rwanda, and you as a person that has dealt with in both countries, there's policies, and when it comes to people holding onto their land, and you know, in places that you feel that should be developed, when you go through certain areas like Boise, you will see a commercial building right next to a building that has no value at all.
Yeah,
those kind of policies, do you think they've held back the real estate in this country?
You see, unfortunately for Uganda, that we have a precedence that has been set when you talk about the corruption levels, when you talk about the awful illegal land acquisitions. Unlike Rwanda, where in Rwanda, interestingly, I was there, and you're clearly told, according to the land tenure system, every inch of land in Rwanda is well accounted for, who owns it, and at any point in time
planned for properly.
And planned for. In Uganda, that's different. But again, I mean, in 2012 we had a potential regulation that was going to come out to ban the building of bungalows in the CBD Kampala, to promote more high-rise building and all that. But it died a natural death, and it goes back to tell you how serious as a nation we think about real estate. It always annoys me and angers me every time the national budget is read, and there's nothing specific when it comes to the housing sector. You are told that Dubai in just 1 year, last year alone, made $95 billion just from real estate, just from tourism to real estate. So I feel like the government needs to put a little more emphasis on the importance of real estate. By the real estate, when I talk about it from a government perspective, you're looking at the whole sense of whether it's housing, to the infrastructure, to the roads, yes, highways and all that. There's been an attempt and all that. But again, you and I, if you crossed, I live in Buziga, that's where I recently constructed. But when you go through Buziga right now, you're going through the roads and you nearly think you are in Chanamkaka somewhere and all that. There needs to be a deliberate effort to want to develop the CBD first, of course, before we think of the rural areas and all that. So I believe, for me, that the policies need to be so strong. The Ministry of Housing needs to come in strong, so that we can see a holistic approach to our growth and physical planning.
What are the biggest challenges in real estate today here in this country? We've talked about some of them, policies, we've talked about corruption, we've talked about infrastructure in the country, but what are the biggest challenges?
I think the major challenge at the moment is the housing deficit, which year in, year out, from the time I started running as chairman the Homes and Property Expo 7 years ago, every time I've been hosted here, it's the same story. Kampala still has a housing deficit of up to 550,000 units, nationally about 2 million units, and research indicates for the last 5 years over 60% of your Kampala dwellers, even your corporate guys, live in slums. Now, I cannot mention any other huger problem but that the housing deficit. And when you look at the rural urban population right now, it's growing at double digits now, 5.5 and above, and it keeps increasing. A population of about 40 million people, a poorly planned Kampala city. The traffic jam is only going to get worse. So there's a lot, there's so many problems around the physical planning of the whole real estate machinery of this country, and for me that's a huge problem. Of course, the next problem that that backs it up is, why do we have a housing deficit? It takes you back to the financing, to the performance of the economy, to how much disposable income people out there have to be able to afford even taking a mortgage or a home loan. Home loans right now, you're talking about 18 brands like Housing Finance Bank are at 18.5%. It just recently increased a little bit. So when you look at the disposable income and what people are earning, you have the housing deficit problem, and you have over 75%, research indicates over 75% of Kampala dwellers are living in rented homes. And so you find that the housing deficit is a huge problem, but financing is also a major problem.
When you talk about mortgages, I was having a chat with a group of friends, and one of them was telling us that the future is calling. It looks like 5-10 years ago, in the future, an ordinary Ugandan earning, let's say, 1 million Uganda shillings, it's going to be very hard for you to own a piece of land in this country. It looks like the way to go now is condos.
Again,
have we gotten to that level now?
Again, what real estate world over is an industry that is filled with usually a lot of speculation. We've seen speculations that cause some bubble, real estate huge bubbles. In Kenya, we've had that happen, despite the fact that there's still a strong economy moving forward in terms of housing. I think it goes back to the two options. If I want to own a home, for instance, 2017 end, I made a decision that I needed to own a home. I can't continue running the property show, Chairman Homes Expand, I don't have a home. Now, I realize that for most of us, it needs to be a deliberate intention, and you say, I want to own a home. You've got to want it. Yeah. And when you want it so bad, I went ahead and looked at my savings, acquired a piece of land next to me in Buziga. It wasn't that cheap, but again, when the intent is there, it means that if I've been having 2 meals and 4 meals of Javas every week, I cut that down. If I've been taking out 1 or 2 people every week, I cut that out. Now, when you have the intention, you feel like, you know what, this is my priority now. To cut the long story short, within 10, 11 months, I had I call it my little castle, the model home, the castle up within just 11 months. But it took intense sacrifices. So it's two-way. One, somebody could be watching right now, and it's been a New Year resolution, a home. Unfortunately, right now, there's two approaches. Either you want to acquire yourself a piece of land and build in Mpola, because we have different incomes. I'm fascinated by stories of people who actually have been earning 500,000 Uganda shillings, but joined into housing cooperatives and actually later on built themselves some very good low-cost homes. Because for anyone starting out to build your first home, you need to be humble enough to know, you know what, as long as I can have 1, 2 bedrooms, it's just for me, it's a starting point. It's very important. But also on a good note, as we start the expo, the Homes Expo tomorrow, you'll find that we've brought on board a number of developers right now who have affordable housing from as low as 45 million Uganda shillings for 1 bedroom. 2 bedroom, you're talking about from 70 million or so. So I think for me, bottom line, it goes back to the individual. Chichicho Yagala, what do you want? Do you want it that bad? Or it seems like something, I just think about it and that's it. But the trouble is, and I keep telling people and I reemphasize, you look at the pictures on the screen there, you'll see how amazing the real estate growth is taking place and all that. But you see, as long as you continue spectating and a naysayer, oh, the economy is doing bad, oh, we're doing bad and all that, you will never progress. Unfortunately, I cannot sit here and tell you it's going to get better. No, unfortunately not. The value of land is ever going high. Construction material ever going high. And the best time to invest in your property, in your home, I will say ably right now, is now. Whatever you're earning, if you're watching right now, regardless of how much or how little it is, now is the time to begin thinking hard in terms of home ownership.
Edwin, people would say, I'm a salary earner. I'm not earning that much money. Why should I get 100 million Ghana shillings, 50 million Ghana shillings, dump it in a house, and then sit myself in there? There's no growth in there. That's not an investment. My money is not coming back. Why shouldn't I go and invest in put more money in my business as I rent out and then later on when I can afford, I can.
I'll tell you what. We've had that discussion for the last couple of years. People are asking me, would you rather invest in a business or in a home? And I think it's a sick line of analysis and argument. I am a businessman. I run a couple of businesses. I've invested in businesses and I've lost money. So I could invest money in a home today and you claim it will just be seated there, and I could invest money in a business and lose it. Well, I keep saying that a home for me is beyond just a financial investment or asset. There's many advantages to owning your own home. Let's get it right. However, also priorities of people differ. Someone, if you have tried and tested the line of business you want to get into, because also building a home is not for the faint-hearted. You really need to have a steady flow of income that you have really well planned out for, unless you take a mortgage. Even when you take a mortgage, you need to be so sure that your funding supply or the job or the security that you have will be enough to actually support you to owning that home. So it's a case again of priorities. Do I want to, if I'm already running a business that is successful and I invest more in it, profits are going to grow, then it makes more sense to put on hold the building and first run the business. However, I always say yes. Again, if you're having the intention to build a home, let the land be there. It's pretty much like people who firmly believe, I need to go nations, I need to begin doing holidays, I need to begin traveling a lot. And dude, you don't even have a passport. And you're talking about, oh, I think I'd love to do a holiday. One day I would want to go to Barbados or Venezuela, and you don't even have a passport. So let's start from the point of, okay, you know what? Building for now, hold, but let me have this piece of land, because I would rather save better now, having this piece of land, than spending more tomorrow on it. Have it, keep it. Then fix this business thing. But I'll tell you something, you could choose to invest all your money in the business and still lose it. So I think back to priorities, back to opportunities, and what you want as an individual.
Okay, Edwin, a quick advice here to a young man that is out there and is thinking, you know what, I earn, let's say, 500,000 Ghana shillings, $1 million Ghana shillings. Should I go in for a mortgage? Should I save and buy my own piece of land?
500,000, 1 million shillings, of course, it's heavily difficult to get a mortgage at that kind of income flow. And also, I would say, you've used the word young man. I don't know, I don't know. Lately, of course, there's a problem of us, of young people. I don't know whether I'm still young, 36 really. There's a tendency to be on pressure. Now, just like Jack Ma says, between 20 and 30, unless you have a windfall as a young man that really some big money has fallen, that's when you can get into the pressures of building and all that. But between 20 and 30, those are years of building yourself, building your personal investment portfolio, building your career. So if you are lucky and blessed fortunate to actually acquire a piece of land at that between 20 and 30, then go ahead and do it. But 20 and 30 is not necessarily the time to really hustle so much and strain over owning a property. But unless if you have the means, yes. Of course, later on when you cross into 30, then that's something you need to think hard on in terms of how do I make this happen. And for me, again, regardless of how much you earn, we have success stories that we've had of someone who was earning 300,000 Uganda shillings per month, and they were able to, by way of discipline, save. Now, how they did it is a mystery, as they explained to me, but some of they did. Others have developed what you call housing cooperatives, where they save together. 20 people buy a huge chunk of land and segment it. So there's so many ways. You see, the key thing is here, you have the intention, number one, and the desire. Once you have it, then the rest, the strategy you come up with now is what counts and matters. But I believe so strongly that once you have a dream, once you have a vision, you follow through it and figure out. I always use the analogy of a stream of water. Water, if it finds a rock on its way, it will either go above it or beneath it or on the side. You find a way. Because at the end of the day, this life has to count for something for us. You don't want to live in your 40s and 50s and 60s and regretting and looking back, oh, I wish, oh, I wish, oh, I wish. So there's got to be some deliberate decisions you make and follow through with them.
In case you're just joining us this morning at 10 TV, we have Edwin Musime, who is a real estate consultant. He's been for quite some time. He's had a couple of projects. We're going to be talking about one of his babies. I don't know if we can call him a baby. It's 7 years. 7 years. 7 years now, so it's not a baby anymore. But we're going to be talking about that. And today on our Tech Note session, we're talking about real estate. Why is it perceived as an expensive venture, and can me and you get into the business as well? And so far, I think if you deliberate about it, I think you can. Then that's me anyway. But let's get into the Home Expo. 7 years old. how was the start? So, because you could, like any venture, it's always hard at the beginning. And 7 years ago, people hadn't yet moved into real estate, as they didn't have that much interest like they do today.
Yeah, one of my friends, actually, I'm humbled to take that comment from him. He calls me the godfather of real estate in Uganda. But 7 years ago, before even the property show was birthed, I started what you call the Homes Expos. And for me, the idea was to gather people, players together, different exhibitors that are playing in the industry, because there was a challenge. There was a lot of obscurity and ignorance about what was happening in the industry. What kind of material do I use? When I have damp walls, what do I do? What kind of bricks do I use? What kind of steel material do I use? These roofings or hardware world, how do I open an account to start constructing and all that? And I felt like there was a need to create a platform where the buyer meets the seller, the consumer meets this case, so that it's not a mystery, so that we just don't sit down and talk about, oh yeah, real estate is an expensive venture because the kind of thing. And so when we started the culture of putting exhibitors together and inviting people to just come in and interact and engage with them, there was a lot of exposure that people began to get. And then with time, I've heard people who tell me, oh my goodness, Edwin, thank you so much. Through either the property show or Homes Expo, I was able to meet so and so, and then now my project, I started off something and it's moving. The other key thing, the reason we put these exhibitors together, I had a chance to travel to China when I was going to construct, courtesy of one of the partners. And one of the things I've observed currently, the good news is actually somebody can construct fully his or her house in Uganda without necessarily traveling to Turkey or China. People have the illusion that if I travel to China and buy my material from there, lighting or whatever, and all that, it's cheap. Yeah. Hell no, it is expensive. But you have brands like Chink there that have the best lighting in the world, Jomo, the best sanitary ware in the world. Get in there, open an account, begin paying, even if you're planning to start building. And for me, this is the strategy I always tell people. Are you planning to start building in 5 years? Begin the process now. Lighting, go find out the BOQs on lighting. What lighting shall I need? You put something small there. It's not put something small. That commitment is what keeps you wanting to go. So the idea of the expo was just basically to create a culture where people have exposure to what's happening in the industry. Lately, one of the exhibitors we have now, Lotus, they do 3D walls. I've just done some 3D walls in my house and they're amazing. And strangely, these are not things that are very expensive. So the idea of the expo is to have guys have that excitement of engaging with these guys and knowing, okay, what's on the market. So that's how far we came with the expo 7 years ago, and boom, now this year May we have the 7th year starting, and then of course we do them twice a year. May, then we shall have one in November.
Okay, so it's happening, it's kicking off tomorrow.
The Homes Expo for May is opening tomorrow. The Nabagereka, the Queen of Buganda, will be flagging it off at 11 a.m. So it's at the Sheraton Gardens, free entry for everybody. We have over 50 exhibitors, and we are calling upon everybody. There's consultants there, I will be there. There's many other players in the industry that people can come and actually engage with. The questions you're asking me, they need to come and engage with these people practically, whether it's roofing, whichever brand it is. So we've opened it tomorrow. It's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is going to be a picnic, Homes Expo picnic experience, where we're inviting families, father, mother, to come, because couples, usually the father and mother, both have an input. Men are usually more interested in the hardware of the property. Women are more into the interior of the property, so we're encouraging now families to come in on Saturday from 9 a.m. So it's going to really be an exciting experience.
Okay, there you go. There's an opportunity for you to avoid the middleman, because that middleman sometimes has their own selfish interests, and they could derive you from what exactly you're looking for. So this is the opportunity for you to interact with the people that you really want to talk to, get all the ideas you want from them, talk to them, ask all the questions, and hopefully you can get started on your journey to owning your own little castle, like you call your place in Bunga. I look forward to seeing your little castle meanwhile. Hopefully it's a castle.
It is my little castle.
Of course, with someone that has been in this business for 8 years now.
8 years now.
8 years, yeah. Yeah, you should have a castle. Thank you very much, Edwin, for joining us this morning. The Homes and Property Expo is kicking off tomorrow, Thursday. Please, if you have the dream of owning a home, if you already own a home and you still want to change a few things, the lighting, the walls, there's a lot that you can do with your house. If you have have some property somewhere that is stuck and you want to improve it or put up something at that property, come for the Homes and Property Expo.
Just to emphasize one thing. Yeah. People that always watch the show always tell me, but Edwin, the things are expensive.
Yeah, they look so fancy.
I keep telling people, when you come to my home, you'll find certain things that I got exposed to and I wanted. And actually, the word is creativity. Creatively came up with other ways of achieving what probably Charles Simbire does in his home that I can't afford now, but it's about that creative mind and all that. So I think for me, what I'm emphasizing to the people that are watching on why they need to come to the expo tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the Sheraton Gardens is come, see what the industry has to offer. And for some, actually, some of the things you think are very expensive, you may find them not necessarily expensive. But also it's very important to pick ideas, get exposed to what's happening in your world of real estate. And then I believe that's where, one by one, we can make our small dreams come true.
Okay, let's go make our small dreams come true. Edwin, nice to have you this morning. Thank you very much for joining us. Edwin Musime, real estate consultant, and we have been talking real estate this morning. And of course, make sure you go for that expo that is kicking off tomorrow. For more details, you can go on our Facebook page. The hashtag is morning@NTV. You can rewatch this session again, and hopefully you can pick up more from what we have shared. Morning@NTV continues. My name is David Rukasi. Good morning.
Watching Morning at NTV.
The Megatalk Voice Bundles. With Airtel Megatalk Bundles, you get more minutes to talk more. Yes, more minutes, more talking on Pakalast daily, weekly, and monthly bundles. Get 30 minutes for only 1,000 shillings, valid for 24 hours. And for only 6,000 shillings, you get 225 minutes, valid for a whole week. Or a mega 2,000 minutes for only 30,000 shillings, valid for a whole month. Yes, more value, more minutes, more talk with Megatalk Bundles. Dial *149#. Select your preferred Megatalk bundles on Airtel, the smartphone network.
My name is Reverend Ebo Nawasamranjira. I'm an Anglican priest in the Church of Uganda. I work with Western Korea Diocese. I am a servant of God. I started playing with Super 3 just way back last year in November. To my surprise, I happened to get my 10 million Uganda shillings. Apparently, I'm organizing my wedding. I've been yearning for some top-up on my contributions and, finish up with preparations. So thank you so much.
Play now, and for just 1,000 shillings, take home this week's 30 million super jackpot on MTN. Simply dial *165*33#. For Airtel, dial *185*33#. Enter your 3 lucky numbers, followed by NTV. Enter your amount from 1,000 to 50,000 shillings and get that super feeling today. Super 3!
Uganda joins the rest of the workers around the world on 1st of May 2019 to celebrate the International Labour Day in Agago District. According to the 2017 National Labour Force Survey, Uganda's labour force is slightly over 9 million people, with a time-related underemployment of 11.6% and income-related underemployment of 45.4%. Join us this Thursday morning on the 2nd of May at 11 a.m. in a live talk show on Extrapolating the Real Labour Situation of Uganda, what the nation ought to do to maximize the potential of its labour force for sustainable development and the action the labour force ought to take to assure its betterment. This show is brought to you by the platform of Labour Action, PLA.
On the next episode is brought to you by
Kiri Soda.
We're done clearing this area. It's on this very spot that we can have the hotel entrance. On this site, we will have a grand entrance.
I want to get my family back.
That won't be possible now. I have forgotten about you when you decided to leave us. Unfortunately, you don't have a place in our lives anymore.
Soda in 4 different flavors: lemon, mixed berry, orange, and Kiri Cola. Celebrate life with Kiri Soda.
They're young, stylish, and with their own sense of fun.
How did you come to Kampala?
Hey, don't worry. I'm going to be on T-Nation.
what they want and go for it. They're carefree, opinionated and intelligent.
They're hidden by a covering to avoid temptation, to prevent seduction.
Why did you have to bring a baby as your daddy?
What are you?
Teenagers doing what they love best.
I see you're not matching, you know the color, they're not matching. Why?
On T Nation every Saturday
at 11 a.m.
only on NTV. You're watching Morning at NTV. You're watching Morning at NTV.
You're watching Morning at NTV. My name is David Rukase, together with Rita Kanya. This morning we're taking you through the first day of May 2019. It's International Labour Day, and the celebrations are going down in Agago district. We're going to be getting into those details in a bit. Of course, there are preparations that are ongoing. We're going to get into that. But first, let's get into our weather update. Well, into our weather update today, let's have a look at today. We have some chances of rain today, with highs expected to be around 26 degrees Celsius and lows of 17 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow, yes, there will be more chances of rain as well. We'll have relatively the same temperatures like we're having today, highs of 26 degrees Celsius and lows of 17 degrees Celsius. That is the weather that is expected, that is today and tomorrow. And of course, we have been talking about International Labour Day. The celebrations, the national celebrations, are going to be held in the northern district of Agago in Patong, Agago Country, and the preparations for this event have been led by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, the Uganda People's Defence Forces, police prisons and other government agencies. And right about now, let's take a look at the preparations that are ongoing in Agago district.
To choose to have the International Labour Day celebration in Agago, for us, we think it is of great significance. It is very important.
So this year's theme is focusing on infrastructure, where if you are building a road, for example, you must use cement, you must use steel from Uganda.
International Labour Day celebrations here in Uganda will be celebrated in Agago, the northern district of Uganda. We are already here to bring you the details. And if you look around, the roads have been paved, tents have been erected at the venue where the function is going to happen. Soldiers have finished practicing in marching, and all is set for the function. President Yoweri Museveni is expected here tomorrow to grace the function, but also, according to the Ministry of Gender, hand over checks to youth groups from Agago, Padel and Kitgum, among others, for youth livelihood programs. The program has been riddled with claims of corruption, funds not reaching the youth, but internationally, the International Labour Organization headquarters will be marking 100 years of existence. In a special way, a mural will be erected on the walls of the headquarters with an image of a Ugandan girl telling a story of unemployment struggles, and that will be in New York. But all the other details coming back home will be brought to you here on NTV from me, Malcolm, and the team.
That's Malcolm Masibe, who happens to be in Agago, and he will be updating us on everything that is happening in Agago district there, as of course we mark International Labour Day.